Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that You Don't Look It. We're coming at you with some more fun stories today. Danni is going to tell some historical ones while I tell a fun personal one. And I actually have my friend, our mutual friend, Riley here, because she is up visiting, and we thought it'd be a good time to tell a story that she was involved in because, I don't remember a lot of it. But yeah, so this is Riley. You want to say hi?
Hi.
We're all an anxious bunch, so we're like.
I'm excited though. Our first guest.
I know our first guest.
Our first guest
is an anxious nut.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
same though. We're all anxious here.
We were talking before this, saying how it takes me like 5 minutes to introduce the podcast once we even start recording because I'm an anxious hoe.
It's the anxiety cast.
Exactly. But yeah, what's been new in your life, Danni?
Well, okay, so for those of you that don't know, we are very ahead. We're on episode 6 right now. I think we only have episode 2 released. Yep. So we film ahead. So just so you know, if it sounds like this is all old news by the time you get this, it's currently May 31st.
Yep.
So currently we have all the protests and riots going on over George Floyd's death. So
that we do.
So that's some anxiety because I survived race riots before, and they were very scary.
I can imagine.
So I'm trying to be productive without letting myself get too triggered.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself. And I think what you've been doing, like giving tips and stuff for people who do want to participate in protests, is an important thing to do. And it's like, you got to do what's good for you, but you're also deciding to help and speak out. So
yeah, I feel like riot safety tips from somebody that did things wrong is probably better than nothing.
I feel that. I've been getting into some wars with people on Facebook, some people I went to high school with, having a good old time.
Having a grand old time fighting racism from my couch.
Exactly. Throwing some articles at people and still having them be like, nah. I'm like, okay, then. Then when you call them racist, they get offended. It's like, you're only getting offended because it's true.
And the thing is, it's like, I can handle people being because I don't have experience with racism personally, but I have experience with homophobia. So I can handle people being homophobic towards me if they just don't understand and they're literally just ignorant. And once I give tell them hey, that's offensive, or this is why we have pride, or stuff like that, and then they do better, I don't really hold it against them because I'm like, you're just uneducated. You're not trying to be mean. But once you give somebody the facts and once you tell people why that's hurtful and they still choose to be racist or homophobic, that's on them. They're being shitty.
Right. That's where the big problem lies.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't want to bum you guys out too much, but it is important. Even though we don't have a big platform right now, it is important for us to talk about these topics because, we're both white women. We have white privilege, and it's our responsibility to use our privilege to help those who are people of color and don't have the same voice we do.
Yeah. And large or small, I feel like every platform should participate.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, so if you've made it this far and you're not liberal, you'll very quickly find out we are quite liberal, especially when it comes to social issues. So if that's not your thing, you might not want to follow us because we will talk about this stuff.
Yes, because it very much affects us.
Exactly. But yeah, so I feel like that's a good enough update. We've all been doing the same thing, all still in quarantine pretty much.
Yeah. But you're there with Riley, so what have you guys been up to?
Oh, that's true. We got this restaurant. We have a restaurant near us in New England called Mr. Max.
Yes, Mr. Max.
Riley loves Mr. Max.
I know, she was telling me about it. I was like, ooh, that sounds good.
Yes. It's basically like gourmet or deluxe mac and cheese. So it's pretty delicious. So we got that the first night you were here?
Yeah.
So we got that. We have a park near my house, so we've been going to that a little bit for picnics or just walks. We did that rando nodding thing that you mentioned, and it wasn't anything thrilling, but there was one, we all had our different intentions, and Riley's was healing, and it took us to a boys and girls club, like teen center.
What? That's noodles.
So there's that. And then mine was supernatural, and it took us to a house, and the other option was this tree with holes in it, but Steven's was funky, so we think his may have been the tree. But so, I mean, it wasn't thrilling, but it was fun, and I'm glad I didn't get scared.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys weren't hurt, because some people have like literally had to call the police because they found something that might have been like incriminating.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I don't want that, but that's also amazing. At the same time, I kind of want it.
Yeah, same.
Kind of wanted to find something scary, like, you know, like, I don't know if I sent you that TikTok, but some girl found like, it was almost like a ritual site.
With the logs? Oh, no, never mind. I saw that somewhere
with
else.
The log? Oh, no. It was like somebody had built like almost like a teepee looking structure out of fallen trees and branches. And then they had a bunch of like, I forget what they're called because my dad told me what they were called. But basically it was like sticks and a bunch of X patterns that were going down a line to make a fence. And they were all sharpened at the end. And then there were a bunch of deer skulls hanging off of everything. And I'm like, oh, no, that's scary. Yikes. I don't like that.
We have a creek in our backyard, and when I was younger, I followed the creek and went really far into the woods and ended up finding like a fort made out of sticks. It was really strange, and I came to find out around that area is where a sex offender lives, and I was like, that is some lovely bone shit right there.
Wait. He lives in the woods? He lives there?
The woods behind the apartment complex where I was.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. That's so scary.
Terrifying. That's a no for me, folks. That is some lovely bones type shit. Jesus.
Yeah, not about that.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to think. What else have we done? Oh, we took dogs to an indoor pool. They loved that.
I saw.
And so Rudy hopped in like he does. What else? They've played in our little like kiddie pool in the backyard. We've watched some Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes.
Done all that good stuff. Dying of heat because we don't have AC right now. So we moved the air mattress, and Steve and I moved our mattress into the basement so that we wouldn't be dying. But yeah, that's what we've been up to. Pretty much.
Honestly, much better. That's a great way to ride out quarantine.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I'm going to be super depressed when I have to go back home and go to work.
Yeah, I'm bringing her to the airport tomorrow.
No. This week has flown by.
It really has. It's been a little too fast, but it's been fun. Oh,
yes.
That's so sad. But yeah, so that's what we've been up to. And we are hyped to hear your story.
Hell yeah. I'm excited about this one because I was going to do another one that was actually not historical, and it was about a haunted house that is kind of like unethically run. And then I started digging into it, and they sue the fuck out of anybody that tries to say that that's illegal. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have money for a lawsuit. Not gonna tell that story. I don't. So my story is about the Monte Cristo Homestead. It is known to be the most haunted private residence in Australia.
Ooh, and I've not heard of this.
I know. I'm excited because I used to do foreign study in Australia, and I was in New South Wales, and I offhandedly heard about this house, and I forgot about it. But I remember being really excited to go, but as it being a foreign study trip, I didn't really have the option of where we went and where we didn't go.
Yeah.
And like we were mostly in Sydney a lot of the time. But anyway,
fun stuff.
It is located in Junee, New South Wales at 1 Homestead Lane. The house was owned by Elizabeth and William Christopher Crawley. The family lived there with their 10 children and several servants. It is now owned by the Ryan family, and Lawrence Ryan, the owner's son now runs tours into the Monte Cristo homestead. So to this day, you can still go on ghost tours. I think you can still stay there overnight.
No,
I know
thank
they
you.
do. Yeah. I know they do weddings there sometimes, and I'm like, what the fuck? Pardon?
Right.
Who-
It's an interesting choice. Very
Like
macabre.
you want to get married where several people died? Okay.
Right.
Fun. Honeymoon there too. It's great. I mean, if
It's
that's
like
your
that
jam, that's your
episode
jam.
of American Horror Story. I can't remember which season. I think it was Asylum, when Adam Levine's character and his wife are going on a tour of all the haunted places for their honeymoon.
Oh,
and he
no,
gets his
never.
arm ripped off.
Oh wait,
I
no,
know.
no. That's when they break into the asylum.
Yeah,
Where
that's what I
is
was
it?
saying,
Yeah.
Asylum, right?
Oh, they were gonna do their honeymoon.
That was their
there?
honeymoon. Yeah, that's why they were fucking on all the tables.
I
I vividly
he's, like,
remember
reaching
that.
in, and he's like,
'Cause-
and then it's like, yeet, it's gone.
Yeah, I know. And like, ooh, I had to stop watching American Horror Story after, I think it was Asylum I stopped watching because it freaked me the fuck out.
It was
and
scary.
I'm a
I actually
pussy.
watched that season first.
It's
I
a
think
good
I
one.
It was good.
I watched the first one, and then I watched the one about witches, and then I watched Asylum.
I love Coven.
Yeah, Coven's the
Coven
best.
was good. Coven's still my favorite, and I can still watch that one without getting scared.
Yeah, that one's not as scary.
But anyway,
Oh yes.
continuing, the Monte Cristo homestead sits on 520 acres of land, which consists of the main homestead, the servants' quarters and kitchen, a ballroom, the stables, and a surrounding farmland.
Wow.
I know, it's extensive. It's expansive. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me today, but I can't say my S is right.
That's a
Mr. Crawley was the original owner of all the land that is now Junie, and is the founder of the town. The national rail line went straight through the center of his property, which is the halfway point between Sydney and Melbourne, and was a major changeover point for goods and people and all sorts of stuff. So this was like a big
Gotcha.
deal. This was going to make his town really rich. And it was not a coincidence that this happened because fun, not illegal insider trading at the time.
Woo.
Mr. Crawley's cousin worked for the railway line.
Ooh,
And yeah, just,
scandalous.
you know, it wasn't illegal at the time, so it wasn't a big deal.
Mm.
But Mr. Crawley sold and donated much of his land in order to develop the town of Junie, and the Monte Cristo homestead now sits on 2.2 acres of land. So it's
That's not a
considerably
lot.
smaller,
Yeah.
but Mr. Crawley was seen as like a really like generous person at the time because he ended up donating a lot of land to the Catholic Church. He ended up donating a lot of land and selling a lot of land to families and businesses. So, and the railway. So he made a ton of money off of this. And that really, really built their fortune because they were very rich. And they were some of the original like settlers that came to New South Wales,
Fun
which is
stuff.
why they got all this money. Because
Yeet.
most of the prisoners that were the inhabitants of Australia did not have money.
That's true.
Because it was originally just a dumping ground for prisoners.
Oh yeah, from like the UK, right?
Yep. Oh, it gets fucked too.
Oh, I'm
with-
ready.
About how they got their servants, it's kind of fucked up. And it's borderline slavery. And I'm pretty sure it was slavery for some of them.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area depending on whether you're Aboriginal or European.
Mm.
But the homestead is now owned by the Ryan family, who restored the house to its original state. When Olive and Reginald Ryan bought the house in 1963, the house was in ruins. Like there were no doors, no windows, holes in the roof, wallpaper and paint were peeling off the walls. And it was just a disaster. And for years, the Crawley family that was left refused to sell it. And eventually they did because it was just in such disrepair. And the reason Mr. Ryan bought it was because he had a dream as a child about owning the Monte Cristo house. And he didn't think anything of it because he was a little kid.
Yeah.
And he's probably like 5 or 6 at the time. And he actually, when he first was drawn to the house, he didn't realize it was the house in his dream because
Oh,
the grass
really?
was so high that he thought it was a 1-story house.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so when he
That's
walked up
crazy.
on it, he realized it was a 2-story house, and then he realized it was a dream. It was a house in his dream.
That's kind of terrifying, though.
I know. And I'll get into why they think that is. But he made it his life's mission to own the homestead because it wasn't for sale at the time, and it was just in ruins and sitting on the top of the hill. After he bought the house and they lived in the house for a few weeks, Mr. and Mrs. Ryan had come back to the home late at night after going shopping in town for supplies, and they come back to see every light in the house on.
Oh, that's always
And
fun.
yeah, and that was weird because the house did not have electricity yet. Like there wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't even have electrical wiring, so it was literally impossible because they have not wired the house for electricity yet.
That's honestly terrifying. I would have just turned around and not come back.
Yeah, Olive, who's still alive today, was like, no, I wanted to turn back and go back to town, but my husband was like, well, we have to check it out in case there are squatters in the house.
I
Because
feel
it had
like
been
that's
abandoned.
more reason for me to go.
Right? Well, he's like, it's been abandoned for so long, maybe people don't realize it's been bought and we have people living here and just squatting in the house.
I just hate confrontation. I wouldn't want to.
Same. And I'm like, I would hate to have to like kick somebody out in the middle of the night. I would feel bad.
I'd be like, okay.
Also, I'd be very concerned too because it's like, I don't know, how long have they been there? Like,
right.
You know, what's the situation? What's the deal?
Yeah, that would be a difficult situation to be in.
Yeah.
On both sides.
But they seem like nice people, so I feel like they would have just been like, okay, we'll find you a place to stay, or you can stay here for a few more nights.
Right.
But the only light that the family did own was a single kerosene lamp that was not lit when they left.
Oh, and, wonderful.
Yeah. But when they came up on the house to check it out, they got up to the front doorstep and all the lights went out at once.
What?
No.
Yeah, and the kerosene lamp was not lit and it was not even warm. And
that's nope.
Yeah, they were not believers of spirits or ghosts, and it was like a rumor in the town that it was haunted because it's a creepy old mansion at the top of the hill. Of course, everyone thinks it's haunted.
True.
And they didn't think anything of it until that night, and then they were like, okay, something's not right. That was creepy.
I would have been like, hell no. I know if I was in that position, Steven's like not a believer. He tries to come up with all these answers for certain things like that, and I'm like, I want to know what is a thing, like how he would feel in that situation.
Actually, so to get a lot of this information, I was watching a bunch of interviews with Lawrence Ryan, and he said that a lot of people that come to this house that were skeptics leave as believers.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like, even the most skeptical people that come into this house believe after they leave.
Guess I gotta go there.
I know. Gotta bring him to Australia. Australia's nice, though. 10 out of 10 recommend. Honestly debating moving there.
You can't go that far. That's too far.
I know, but I like it, and I would feel so safe there.
Except every animal is large and trying to kill you.
Actually, that's not true. A lot of them are, like, fine. A lot of things, if you leave it alone, they'll leave you alone. The only real concern is the spiders and the snakes, because if you don't see them and you step on them, then you're going to get bit.
I don't like spiders. I'm not a big fan. No siree. I walked into the laundry room the other day and was just trying to do my laundry, and then this massive ass spider yeets across the floor at lightning speed. Before I could even comprehend what was happening, it was disappearing under a cabinet.
Creepy.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I'm like, I don't want to go do the laundry anymore.
We called my last car the Spider-Mobile because I don't know why, but there were always spiders in it. It was a brand new car. Don't know where they came from. And there were spiders in it until the day it got crushed by a tree. Like,
now they'll go to your new car.
I hope not. I like my new car. I don't want spiders in it.
Right, yeah. No,
I mean, they were harmless, though. I don't think they were poisonous, so we were good.
That's always preferred.
But I'll now get into the spirits because
yes.
I was going to do this as like, you know, we have history, we have the people that bought the house, and now we have spirits, but all the information kind of got intertangled together. So sorry if it sounds a little unorganized. I couldn't find a good way to organize it.
YOLO.
there are 10 major spirits that still reside in the house, as well as a few that just pass through occasionally.
That's like a lot of major ones.
Yeah, they have 10 main ones that stay there pretty much all the time. Most notably, Mr. and Mrs. Crawley. Miss Crawley being the most dominant spirit in the house and is known to be very loving, but very strict. And she's very in charge, and she wants to make sure you know that.
I love a
Alphonse
strong,
and
independent woman.
I know. She is a strong lady. Like, she'll get you. They have some good stories about her.
Ooh.
Alphonse and Magdalena Crawley are the two youngest of the 10 children, and they are known to also be very strong presences in the home. Many of the maids still reside in the home, most of which are young women and orphaned girls from England and young Aboriginal women who are in their teens. Sorry, that came out weird. Basically, all these servants are probably between the ages of like 13 and 16 when they got there.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them were orphaned girls who were sold to rich families across the European colonies, and which included Australia at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also had Aboriginal women that I'm sure were captured and brought there against their will.
Great.
Or, you know, needed money so badly that they had to just find work anywhere.
Right.
But many of the maids were not treated well, and they had a life that was really hard, which closely resembled slavery, or in some cases was slavery. And I'm not sure if it was illegal at the time. I probably should have checked before I started this. But
what year was it?
It was like 1840s to like okay, well, the house 1884 was built in 1884. That's when they got most of their servants.
I'm doing some Googling.
Sorry this is so disorganized, guys. It's been a day under a lot of mental stress.
Okay, it says 1860s for Australia is when slavery was abolished.
Okay, yeah. Because they didn't say that it was slavery, but I'm like, that sounds like slavery to me.
That's true. Also, it's not like people don't still do that stuff today, even.
This is true. And I'm sure like 20 years after slavery is abolished, people are still doing this bullshit.
Right.
These girls would have had better living quarters than that of most slaves, and working clothes were provided to them. Food was provided for them, and they had a very, very small paycheck.
Wonderful. We love underpaying our workers.
Isn't that great? Especially when they do such hard work and literally are there 24 hours a day.
Right.
It's great. They don't go home to their families. It's fine.
Perfect.
Great.
That's so sad.
I know. The servants' quarters were the original Homestead, which was built in 1876, which was just like a brick house. The Crawley family lived in the original Homestead. What?
Because she's a brick. Ow.
She's a brick house.
I couldn't help myself.
I love it. Riley's jamming always. And
honestly, I feel that. I'm here for the jams.
Sing something, and I'll be like, I don't know what's going on, but I love this.
I'm gonna join in.
Bitch can't remember what she ate 2 days ago, but she can remember the words to every damn song there is.
That's the real important thing here, though.
It really is. I love it.
That's the goal. The Crawley family lived in the original homestead for 8 years with 9 of their 10 children, the 10th child, Magdalena, being born after they moved into the main homestead. And they lived there while the main homestead was being built, which was completed in 1884. And once the family moved into the main homestead, the original homestead became the servants' quarters and the kitchen. This building was very cramped. It wasn't tiny, but it wasn't big. Mm-hmm. Usually 2 to 4 servants were crammed into each small bedroom, and a lot of the servants were abused, and it was rumored that Mr. Crawley had several children with his staff. which
As they
means
tend
that,
to.
yep, which means that we have a pedophile and a sex offender on our hands.
Perfect. Great. We love that.
Yep. Yeah, sickening. Christopher Crawley died in 1910. He died of an infection on his neck.
Ew.
Yeah, it was kind of gross. And he died inside one of the boys' bedrooms, which he was moved to in order to better care for him, and because the infection had a terrible smell. The infection came from his starched collar rubbing a blood boil on the back of his neck, which led to blood poisoning and sepsis.
That sounds absolutely terrible, and I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. When I was hearing in the interview that that's what happened, I was like, because I had seen some accounts that he had died of a heart attack, and I was like, okay, heart attack, that's normal.
Right.
And then it was like a heart attack induced by blood poisoning, and I was like,
oh,
ew.
Even better.
No. After his death, Elizabeth, Mrs. Crawley, became extremely reclusive and only left the house 3 times in the 22 years before dying of a ruptured appendix in 1933 in the first floor breakfast room.
What a mood. That's the way I'm going to go.
Right? Just be a hermit. It's fine. It's
Exactly.
great. That's the way to live. Quarantine for life, girl.
Exactly.
You'll always be safe.
That's
Build
true.
your riches and quarantine for life.
Exactly. Only your appendix can get you then.
Right? And I mean, we have such good medicine now. It might not get
right.
you.
True.
One of those 3 trips, go to the doctor.
Accurate. Pick them wisely.
Pick them wisely. The breakfast room was converted into a bedroom because she was unable to climb the stairs. This room is incredibly haunted. One of the most active rooms in the house, and those Mrs. Crawley does not like will know immediately. People who have tried to spend the night at the homestead that Mrs. Crawley did not like ended up leaving in the middle of the night and going to town and staying in a hotel.
I would literally get my feelings so damn hurt if she didn't like me.
Right? I would be like, oh. I mean, she's very proper. Like,
yeah.
She's very proper, and she's like, you're going to pronounce my name correctly, or I'm going to yell at you, and, you know, you're going to dress nicely. You're going to, apparently they have rules in this house, because if you break the rules, the spirits get upset. Like, Mrs. Crawley doesn't like it when you don't take your hat off when you're inside, because it's seen as rude at the time.
Right.
She doesn't like it when you pronounce her name wrong. She doesn't like it when you, like, stomp things, and she doesn't like bright lights, like, on cameras. Like, a lot of camera lights or flashlights will go off, or the battery will die, because she doesn't like it.
These all seem like reasonable rules to me.
Yeah.
They do. And they only had kerosene lamps at the time, so a flashlight or an LED light would be very bright for her.
Yeah.
The children of the Ryan family that bought the house, who grew up in the homestead, have reported doors opening and closing to that room and footsteps coming from the room as if Mrs. Crawley was pacing. And the Ryan family lived here for a while before it became, you know, open to the public. And they spent a lot of time renovating it, and they lived there as, like, if it were their personal home for a while.
Right.
Visitors have reported doorknobs to their rooms turning and footsteps outside the door as if somebody were trying to get into their room.
No!
And they would ask Lawrence, and they would be like, hey, were you trying to get into my room last night? That was really weird. And he's like, no, I was like, because I think he has another house that's, like, off property. And he's like, no, I was home all night. That must have been, you know, Elizabeth or Mr. Crawley or somebody, or one of the kids outside of your door.
I don't like that.
Sorry,
I keep yawning so much.
It's okay. I'm like running out of breath. I don't know. It's that anxiety.
We're all over the place today.
Yeah, it's a stressful time to live in America.
That's true.
Yeah. If Miss Crawley wants you to come to the house, she will draw you to the house. Many visitors that she brings to the house report not meaning to go to the homestead, but feeling drawn to it. Even visitors who live abroad or who have never been to the homestead before or heard of the homestead before.
Wow.
Yeah, Reginald Ryan believes that Mrs. Crawley was calling to him to have him come and restore the house and be its caretaker. when he was a child.
Yeah, with the dream and everything.
Yeah. And
That's
like
wild.
a lot of guests will like come up to the house and be like, I don't know what it was. I just felt like I had extra time and I just felt like I needed to be here. I'm like,
Damn.
ooh, that's creepy.
I would be uncomfy.
Yeah, that would make me super uncomfy.
I'd be like, I'm being pulled to this place by a spirit.
Yeah.
SOS.
Yeah, and I mean, if Miss Crawley likes you, apparently things don't happen to you. And I'm like,
That's
okay.
true. That's fair.
Yeah.
Now I
and
want
she's
that
like,
bitch
apparently
to call
she
me.
draws people there for like a purpose. Like, because she wants to tell you something or she wants you to do something. And I'm like,
It's kind of terrifying, but also kind of cool.
You're being summoned. I mean, from all the footage I saw of this place, I really didn't get a lot of bad feelings. I got a few bad feelings, especially in the breakfast room.
Yeah.
And in the storage room, which I'm about to tell you about. But other than that, I didn't really have it felt haunted, but I didn't feel anything bad.
Right. I'll have to look this shit up.
It's really interesting. Mrs. Crawley converted the storage room, which is also called the box room, on the second floor into a chapel. And it was like, so there was like a balcony, and at the end of the balcony there was a door, and it looked like it was detached from the house, but it looked like a closet.
Okay.
And the chapel was later converted into a bedroom when the Ryans moved in for one of their daughters. And Mrs. Crawley did not like that. She was known to pray in her private chapel for at least 1 hour a day after her husband's death. A priest from the town would visit Mrs. Crawley every Sunday and give a private sermon in her chapel to her and her children. People have reported seeing Mrs. Crawley dressed in black and holding a cross, most often in this room, especially Mr. Ryan's daughter, who used to sleep in that room.
Yeah, I would not want to be sleeping in there, especially if it's renovated and she's pissed about it.
Oh, yeah. And this is the creepiest part. People have reported, people that slept in that room have reported feeling something pressing down on their chest, feelings of terror, having random crying spells. They would hear people walking down the balcony, the porch, and coming inside the room and sitting at the end of the bed. And you can feel the pressure at the end of the bed as if somebody were sitting on it.
Oh, imagine being like, oh, it's just my dog. And then you look up and your dog's on the goddamn floor.
Yeah. And a lot of people are like, will we hide under the covers when they start getting these feelings? And they just like pray for Mrs. Crawley to leave. And then you could feel the pressure lifting off the bed and you can hear her leave and walk back down the balcony.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't like that. And the room was actually blocked off from the tours for a very long time because the presence of guests in the chapel really upset Mrs. Crawley.
That's understandable. It's a very important place to her.
Yeah, it's very private. Like, I feel like whenever I go into places that have spirits or that are haunted, I avoid bedrooms or like very personal areas where people like to keep like private. Like their bedroom, their bathroom, their office. Like, I don't know, I went to an estate sale of a man who died in my neighborhood, and we went out to the garage, and his car was still there, and I swear to God, I saw him in his car.
Oh my gosh.
And then when, like, my dad went to check out his bedroom, and I was like, I'm not going in. I'm not going in there. He doesn't want that. I'm not going in. And I ended up actually buying a few things from the estate sale.
Oh, really?
And we got like a little Mayan calendar that he had bought in Mexico.
Oh, that's cool.
And I bought a bunch of like really weird like eggs, and they turned out to be like alabaster.
Oh, wow.
But I got them for like $20.
Damn.
Estate sales, that's where it's at, dude.
True. Just go to all them estate sales.
They're creepy, but worth it if you know how to get rid of the haunting.
True. You're not just collecting ghosts.
Just collecting it. So now I shall get into the many, many deaths of the house. I've gotten into 2, but I'm going to go into a bunch more.
Wonderful.
Not all 10, because that would be a lot. But I'm going to go into the main ones that are the biggest hauntings in the house. One of the maids died by being pushed over the balcony on the second floor.
That's rude.
It is stated in the police report that it was a suicide, but judging by the trajectory of how she fell, it makes like a much darker scene. Because if you jump off of something, the trajectory is outward. But if you
Right.
fall, it's straight down.
That makes sense.
And it was a well-known...
really pushed with like some supernatural power. It's like, yeet! And then just fly.
Oh, she wasn't pushed by a spirit. It was a well-known rumor that the maid was pregnant with Mr. Crawley's child, and it was highly suspected that she was pushed from the second floor balcony to cause a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah, a little bit more than a miscarriage.
A little bit more than... I mean, it wasn't very high. Like, the ceilings were not super high, and therefore the porch wasn't. But it was still, like, you would have broken a bone. It was still too high.
So did she die from falling off of that?
Yes, but, like, not immediately.
Ugh.
So when she went over, she held onto the railing and lost her grip, which caused her to fall on the front steps and hit her head and slowly bleed out.
Oh, my gosh. So if she had
Yes.
not grabbed it, she honestly might have been fine.
Yeah, but she grabbed it, and I guess she fell in such a way that she went head first. Because I think it might have been like she grabbed it as she was falling and then quickly let go.
Yeah. Okay,
and
gotcha.
It just
so
turned
it kind
her
of like
over.
broke her fall, but not to her benefit.
Yeah, no, not if you land on your head.
No.
Yeah, and you can still see the spot where she landed to this day because the staff tried to clean up all the blood with bleach, but they left it on the steps for too long, and it took the color out of the stairs.
That's uncomfy.
That's so cool.
Literally 100 years later, you can see where she died.
Oh my god. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's rough.
And, you know, it obviously was not it was not meant to kill her.
Right.
Only to cause a miscarriage. But when she died, Mr. Crawley and his sons panicked and called the police and claimed it to be a suicide. And because servants were not considered very important and were kind of like slaves at the time, there were no investigations.
Well, screw that.
Yeah. And his sons also were not the greatest people because monkey see, monkey do, and
right.
A monkey be a bad dude. So Magdalena was Mrs. Crawley's youngest daughter, who died at 14 months old from being dropped down the stairs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She was actually left at the foot of the stairs for 2 hours as Mrs. Crawley was not on the property and the servants were afraid to move her.
Oh my god. Do we know if she died immediately or if it was like...
She didn't.
Oh my god.
The sickest thing about this is nobody dies immediately in this house.
Oh my god. People are just
suffering.
Sucking. Yeah, people are sucking at saving, so other people are suffering and then dying.
I know. It's bad. She actually died of a twisted bowel, which killed her instantly as the panicked Mrs. Crawley picked her up.
Oh, that's sad.
Because Mrs. Crawley was out of town, out of the estate, and she was coming back up, and one of the servants was like, "Your kid fell down the stairs," and she like ran back up, and obviously was panicked and picked her up, and it killed her. Like,
that's so sad.
And she died immediately. Yeah. The maid that dropped Magdalena reported that an unseen force pushed the baby out of her arms, but it is also suspected that it was revenge from one of the older siblings who was jealous of how well Magdalena was treated and how she was Mrs. Crawley's favorite.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah. Magdalena was born 7 years after her next oldest sibling, Alphonse. Okay. And she was treated like, you know, she was the baby. All the other kids were adults pretty much, except for like Alphonse and maybe one other kid. And, you know, all the other kids are out of the house and they had this newfound fortune and she wanted to give her baby everything. Which,
right.
You know, that makes sense. And you can't change the fact that you were poor when your older kids were children.
Right.
So, but it's suspected that Alphonse might have pushed the maid and the maid covered for him.
Right.
It's also suspected that it was payback for the maid being treated poorly. So it's also suspected that the maid might have dropped her on purpose.
Right. Damn.
Yeah. Magdalena is one of the first spirits people encounter upon entering the house, and she's been known to cause many guests to burst into tears upon entering the house.
That's
And like a
understandable.
lot of people will be like, I don't know why I'm crying. And it'll be like these tough ass dudes. And they're like, I have no idea why I'm crying. And like a lot of kids will get really, really upset and just like completely freak out and have a meltdown.
That's understandable.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. That's scary. Many people report a pulling feeling when they stand at the top of the staircase, as if someone's trying to push them or pull them down the stairs. And a lot of people say that when they get like halfway up the stairs, they start losing their balance.
Well, that's
And I'm
kind of
like, ooh,
scary. We don't want any more
spook.
head
Injuries.
banging.
Head injuries.
Or bowel twisting.
Yeah, seriously.
There's surprisingly a lot of head injuries in this
Great.
story. It's great.
The best head
The next kid to die on the property was the Morris boy. And the Morris family worked at the farm on the homestead. And they lived in kind of like a little log cabin house thing, as was pretty usual for farmers at the time. And one day, one of their sons was sick and stayed home from work. When a supervisor asked where the boy was, his father said that he was sick and stayed home. And so the supervisor went to the Morris home to wake the boy up and get him to go to work. And the boy was like, okay, yeah, I'll get up, I'll go. And I guess he must have fallen back asleep at one point, because when the supervisor came back, he was like, what the fuck? He's slacking off. He's just sleeping.
Yeah.
And so this genius goes, I know what'll get him up. I'll light his bed on fire.
What?
That'll wake him up. Yeah.
Why not like throw some water on him if you really want to be like
Right?
rude?
Right? Like throw water on him. I don't know. Anything. Don't set his bed on fire. What the fuck?
That's
Okay, I don't.
awful. Oh my god.
Apparently, Victorian era people just were mean. I don't know.
Yeah.
From all those tight corsets.
Or just like feeling like a god because men had all the power.
True.
But the boy slept on a straw mattress,
Oof.
which was pretty common as well, to have like a straw mattress or a bunch of straw stuffed into a mattress and then like blankets and stuff over it.
Right.
And that caught fire quickly because it was dry straw
Oof.
inside of a log cabin.
Oh.
And it burned the entire house to the ground in minutes.
That's insane.
Yeah, it went up real fast. And depending on the time of the year, New South Wales can be pretty dry as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that doesn't help. And the boy was too sick to wake up from the fire initially, when it initially broke out. And he got 3rd-degree burns on his entire body.
Oh my god.
He died. Yeah, he died months later.
That's
From his
torturous.
injuries. Yeah. A lot of people who visit that area report the smell of burning hair and report
like
seeing a boy walk through the walls of a building that was built over the old Morris home, which is like a caretaker building for staff that now works the mansion.
Yeah.
And the building that's there now, the caretaker's home, a lot of people that have worked there have tried to sleep there. Guests have tried to sleep there, and nobody can sleep there. Like, they get a terrible night's sleep. They usually wake up afraid, go back into town, and sleep. A lot of people report the Morris boy making a bunch of noise and playing and laughing. There's also been reports of horses galloping very loudly behind the caretaker's house, which is where the stables are.
Oh, okay.
And where the carriage house is. So it makes sense.
Right.
Kind of strange, but it makes sense. There are no horses on property anymore. They don't have carriage rides. They don't have horses on the property.
Ooh.
So it's literally impossible
Hearing some ghost
for there to be horses out there. Yeah. Like, I've never heard of a ghost horse, but okay.
I'm pretty sure there's a ghost horse in South Carolina around Charleston, a guy that rides around on a horse carrying a lantern.
That's really cool. I'll have to look that up. If you want to send me like a link or the name.
Yeah, I'll try and figure it out and send it to you.
Thank you. I can also do some digging, but sometimes if you don't have the exact name and it's obscure, you never find it.
Yeah.
Also, you guys, if you hear water running, the bathroom is on the other side of the wall that I'm facing, and I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry. And my sister's taking a shower, so if you hear water, that's it.
It's a party. Trust us, we're aware of the water.
It's a party. Oh, yeah. Oh, my house, like, is, after the tornado hit, my house is, like, leaking, and...
Oh, no.
Yeah, we didn't know there was a hole in the roof above my bathroom, and now there's, like, water coming through the ceiling.
Wonderful.
It's great. It's fine. Yeah. So, another prominent spirit is Harold Steele, who was a boy with a cognitive disability who was chained to the caretaker's cottage for 40 years.
Oh my god.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a child of one of the maids and was believed to be one of Mr. Crawley's illegitimate children. When Harold was a child, he was involved in a really bad carriage accident and sustained a really serious head injury. After which he developed a very aggressive personality and was known to have very violent outbursts. And I suspect, in some cases, some reports say that he was born with a cognitive disability, but I'm more inclined to believe a traumatic brain injury.
Right.
Because we know that injuries to the frontal lobe cause serious changes in personality, which usually causes people to be very violent and aggressive.
Right. Wasn't it like
And
that? There was a
so-
guy who got like a spike through his head or something in history. I remember
Yes,
learning
I
about him in
forget his name.
psychology.
Yeah, the guy got
Yeah.
a railroad tie through his head.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
his
And it
personality
went straight
completely
through it went like through his eye and up the top, out of the top of his head, and he lived.
Right.
And he's actually the reason we know that the frontal cortex holds a lot of personality.
Yes. I can't remember his name though.
Me either. I'm blanking. I tried so hard to remember, and I was like, it's not important, whatever.
Right.
If you guys want to know, though, I'll make a post and talk about him. Harold was known to howl and scream, and
Me on a full moon.
part of the reason that he was even chained up in the first place was because he would like run away and like violently attack people, and like he wasn't safe, and it was the 1800s and they didn't know what to do, and they were kind of not the best to people with
Yeah.
disabilities or mental illnesses, so they did the
Not
worst thing
too
that they could.
educated.
Not too educated. But he lived with his mother in the cottage, and he was able to go inside, so it wasn't like he was just tied up to an outhouse or something out back.
Good.
You
Little
can actually
better
still
than
see.
it initially sounded.
Yeah.
Still not
You can
great.
still see the hole in the wall where his chain was,
Oh,
and
wow.
like the areas where the chain rubbed down from him walking back and forth and doing his thing.
Damn.
And a lot of the children in the town were told to never approach the cottage because there was a monster or a werewolf tied up and chained up behind the cottage.
Oh my god, so my comment about the full moon was quite accurate.
Hell yeah. I mean, werewolf boy. It kind of sucks though. Like it's genuinely really sad.
That is sad. That's, oh my gosh. And you think like if people are reporting things like that would kind of, and they're thinking it's like there's a werewolf or something, you would think it's like, okay, maybe we're not treating this person very well. Like maybe
Yeah,
we're
but I mean, they
part of the
also
issue.
partook in slavery, so they probably didn't see an issue with it.
You right.
If they think that, they can just enslave people, like, they probably think the same thing of people with disabilities.
That's true. Ugh,
So, unfortunate, but it happened a lot.
the past.
People were eventually sent up to the cottage to check on Harold's mother because no one had seen her in town for quite some time. And she would often go to town because she was a caretaker to pick up food, pick up supplies, do things like that. And the people that were sent to check on her found her dead, and Harold was curled up at her feet. And
Oh
he
my
was like really
gosh.
skinny, and I was like, Oh, no.
That's so sad.
That's also, like, traumatic, too.
Oh,
because he
yeah.
just sat there with her, which
That's
is awful. I couldn't find a cause of death for her, but I think she was quite old, so it wasn't super strange for her to have died of natural causes.
Right.
The people that found them eventually elected to send him to a home for the insane, and
Oh,
he died there shortly after.
that's so sad.
Yeah. Which sucks, because
Yeah.
I'm sure asylums were not good places to be either.
Yep. Nope.
And he probably at least wasn't tortured at the cottage, and he might
That's
have been
true.
at the asylum.
Oh, that's
Which
so
sucks.
sad.
Yeah. Where was I in my notes? Yes. Okay. Many people hear the clinking of chains when they hear Harold approaching, and many people still report howling and screaming at night when they stay at the estate overnight.
That would be scary.
Yeah.
In
In
like the dead of night.
1948. Yeah, the dead of night, and it's like, I don't think we have wolves here, and I'm not sure if dingoes howl. I don't
know what sound dingoes make.
I feel like they wouldn't make many sounds at all.
Riley says ding dong is the noise they make.
That's the noise. Ding dong. Ding dong, it's the coyote. I mean, ding dong, it's the dingo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this gets even darker too. This cottage was like not a good spot. It's also a very haunted spot on the estate. Because in 1948, before the house was sold to the Ryan family, the house was left to a group of caretakers, one of whom was murdered in the cottage in 1961. Jack Simpson opened the door one evening to an unexpected visitor who shot him point blank range, killing him immediately.
That's rude.
And he was murdered by a local boy. I couldn't find the name of him. I didn't dig very hard though, so
do we know why?
Yes. So the boy had become obsessed with the movie Psycho, which inspired the killing. Yes. After shooting Jack, he wrote "Die Jack, ha ha" on a shed door, which can still be seen to this day.
Oh my god. That's terrifying. I would not want to see that, but also part of me is like, history.
Yeah, and I couldn't find the name of this boy, but actually it could be that he was a minor and they didn't disclose his identity.
Oh, that's quite possible, yeah.
So that might be why I can't find much on him. But Jack does still linger in the area. But there's not much I can find on encounters people have had with Jack. I don't think he's like... I think he kind of minds his own business for all that I've been able to find on him. The maids also don't really tend to cause problems. When people do see them, they're usually working or sitting around watching guests. The maids seen most often.
Whole life, and then you die, and in the afterlife, you're just working and working forever.
Right? Like you were like
rough.
Basically a slave, and you continue to work the same job in your afterlife. How shitty. And Mrs. Crawley is still watching you.
Right.
And so is your so is the guy that probably did like violent sexual things to you.
That's so true.
Mr. Crawley, because he's still there. I don't think I'd be very happy. I think I'd be pretty fucking pissed.
Yeah.
The maid seen most often is a maid who died in an upstairs room during childbirth, as well as the maid who dropped Magdalena down the staircase. When people report seeing spirits in the house, they report seeing them as a living person, and they're often mistaken for just members of the staff in period costume.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like a lot of people will be like, hey, that's not like... Yeah, because they have mannequins around in like period clothing.
I disagree
and
with that.
People will be like... Yeah, and people will come up to Lawrence and they're like, hey, your staff is like a little bit creepy, the ones that you have dressed in period clothing, because they just sit there and they stare and they don't say a word. I really like... One dude was like, I really don't like coming, like going into the stables or like into the to the kitchen area And I didn't get to see it because they creeped me out so bad. Can you have a word with them? And he's like, we don't have any staff in period clothing. Maybe you mistook a mannequin for people.
I'd be
And he's like, no, it was a woman in a black dress, in like a fancy black dress, and a few women dressed as maids. And they were just watching, and it was creepy. And he was like, well, we don't have anybody dressed like that. You probably saw
Great.
Mrs. Crawley and some maids.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, that is, I don't like that.
I'd probably cry and pee myself all at once when I heard that news.
Honestly, I kind of really want to go see it.
I also kind of do too.
Me too.
Let's all go.
Let's do it. A lot of, like, an even creepier one is that parents will see their kids playing with imaginary friends or imaginary children or something, and they're like, hey, can you stop running? We're at a museum. Can you stop throwing things? And the kids will just turn around and be like, no, Mom, I'm playing with the boy. And it's the Morris boy. And the parents, like, don't see a boy, but, like, more than one child insists that they see this boy.
That is scary.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, then.
Members of the Ryan family that, lived there for a while reported seeing people on the property that were not supposed to be there. And they assumed that, like, this has been abandoned for a while. Maybe it's a squatter or somebody here to vandalize or steal something because it's been abandoned. And they'll follow them and chase them and try to chase them down. And they'll, like, turn a corner and they'll be gone.
Oh, that's fun.
And it's like impossible for them to have gone anywhere because they'll turn a corner and it's like an open field and they're gone. Or they'll just disappear into thin air.
I would not like to experience that at all.
Yeah. However, like, a lot of people don't see the spirits, and most people just sense random warm and cold spots in the house, usually around their legs. People have reported feeling tightness in their chest or heavy weight on their chest or feeling pins and needles in their upper body, or hearing things like their name being called behind their back and they turn around, there's nobody there.
No.
Hearing footsteps, seeing doorknobs, like, move.
I don't want to hear my name getting called by anyone.
This is really making me wonder if maybe I don't have a psychotic disorder. Maybe I'm just sensitive to spirits.
Honestly, I thought I had a psychotic disorder for years. I thought I was hallucinating for, like, a full decade. And I don't have literally any other symptoms of anything else. And I don't have, like, strong dissociation of any kind when it's not triggered by a trauma. And so they're like, that doesn't make sense. So we don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeet.
Yeet.
So we gotta go ghost hunting with Danni.
Yes.
And
yeah.
you.
I'd
We
be
can
down.
test it out. We'll be like, all right,
We can test
Riley,
it out.
what are you feeling?
Part of the reason I found out that I wasn't, like, hallucinating was because my house is haunted. People would come to my house and they would describe spirits that I never told them about that I see regularly. In the spot that I see them, exactly how I see them.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, I know. I was like, don't catch me sleeping at your house, Danni.
People refuse to sleep at my house. I've had friends that called their parents to go home in the middle of the night because they were too scared.
My gosh, that's so wild.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
If you ever want to have a sleepover, you're always welcome at my house, but you won't catch me at yours.
Is your house haunted or not?
No, it's only had one previous owner, and it was built by my aunt and uncle, so.
We have a lot of Civil War antiques in my house that came with the house. So that's probably why.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
God.
Yeah. And I don't know how we're going to sell this house because we can't move a lot of them because they're literally too heavy to move and they probably need to be moved by, like, people that work for a museum. So if we ever move, we might actually have to donate them to a museum because I don't know if we can sell this house with these, like, haunted ass things in them.
That could get you no people or it could get you a lot of people. Who knows?
True.
Yeah, I don't know. We could try and sell it, like, on the guise that it's haunted.
True.
But who knows? But anyway, that kind of wraps it up for the Monte Cristo Homestead. It does still run tours today, and it has night tours. And you can find more information on their website, montecristo.com.au. And yeah, they still do night tours. I think they still let people sleep on the grounds.
Oh, wow.
They do weddings for whatever reason. Like they have a whole
Interesting.
ballroom and
Oh,
like
wow.
gardens and farms, and it's very pretty, but also very haunted. So
Right.
haunted honeymoon, guys.
They're like, pick your
Enjoy.
poison.
Pick your poison. I love things like that where it's like so haunted people can't deny it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to go there now, but I'm also scared. I
I'm
just want
scared
Miss
too,
Crawley
but I
to
honestly
like
think
me.
I'd do
Or
it.
Crawley. What's it, Crawley? I don't want her to...
Crawley, yeah.
Okay.
Like creepy crawlies.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, see, I already mispronounced her in the beginning. She probably doesn't like me now. Damn it.
Maybe I'll dress up in like
Yes.
some Edwardian era fashion.
Please do. See what she says.
You see if she likes me. Be sure not to wear a hat.
I feel true. I feel like she'll either love it or be like, this isn't how I dress.
That's tacky.
You bitch. That's tacky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was a good story. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Thank
that
you.
as well.
That was a lot of
I really liked
fun
it.
and creepy.
I feel like I kept slurring everything, but I liked it. I was excited.
It's me always. I'm always like so tired. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I like that. I'm excited to hear. I know you've asked about like haunted ones, and I was like, hell yeah, go for it. Do what you want. So I'm hyped to hear more in the future.
Hell yeah. There will definitely be more hauntings because as much as I love strong historical women, I also love that creepy shit.
Hell yeah.
Mad creepy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. So today, the personal story we have for you here, I just like to call it the Xanax high.
I call it Riley goes to jail.
I went down to visit Riley in South Carolina, party in the South, in March of last year, right? It was last year, during Riley's spring break. And we went, and there was one day, I don't even remember, it was like mid-trip. We decided, let's go to Charlotte, North Carolina.
And do some shopping and see my godmother and go to Payway, which is like my favorite restaurant. We don't have it in South Carolina. It's only, or I don't know if it's only North Carolina, but it's not in South Carolina. It's really good.
Ooh. What is it? Like fast food or
It's like
fancy?
Asian fast food. It's really good.
Ooh, I love me some Asian fast food.
Me too, girl.
I think it was tasty. I don't really remember. So we decided to go there. I think we did a shop. Yeah, we did. We went to the mall. And after the mall, we're like, okay, let's go get some lunch. So we went, and we're waiting in line, and
we both have our service dogs.
Yes, we both are. So you guys know that Danni and I have service dogs. We forgot to tell you that Riley also has a service dog, and that's actually how all of us met.
Yeah, actually, Riley is the only reason that I know Lexie.
Yep, that is true. So we both had our service dog. I had Rudy, and Riley had Gatsby, and they're both adorable. So yes, we understand people want to pet them, but remember, don't distract the dog. So we were there, and we were standing in line looking at the menu, and then what did the woman say?
Some woman comes up to Gatsby.
This is an older woman too,
yeah,
but definitely
older white woman.
A Karen.
She comes up to Gatsby and grabs his head and is shaking him and like talking to him. And I turned around, I was like, "Oh, please don't do that. He's working." And she was like, "You don't have to be so rude." And I was like, I didn't know what to say because I tried to be as polite as possible.
He literally has a sign on him that says "Stop." I'm working
Oh,
like
yeah,
all over him.
I think the vest or the cape he had on at the time was one that had a giant ass stop sign.
Yeah, the middle panel had a giant stop sign. I had the symbols on the side of the vest. It's like, do not talk, do not touch, do not pet, do not distract, all that. And then not only that, but he's a mobility dog, so he has a handle on his harness. And I have a big banner going across the handle that says, service dog, do not distract. So it's abundantly clear. Don't touch the damn dog.
Exactly. And I think the only reason she didn't touch Rudy is because we were in front of Riley and she couldn't get to him. I think if Rudy and Gatsby were right next to each other, she would have gone for both of them and just been like, yes. But she got super pissed. There was like a flip, like a switch flipped. She was just immediately so baffled that she was not allowed to touch our dogs. And
she became very hostile. Like, she's like, I can't believe kids these days. It just makes me sick. And like, going off.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so she was super pissy. And she was like, you don't need to be rude. You don't need to be rude. And then Riley was just calmly
it's my
like,
medical equipment. You could kill me by doing that.
Right. And Riley and I are just like, we weren't rude. And she was like, yeah, you just said, don't pet. And we're like, no. I was like, she literally said, please don't pet my service dog. He's working. And she was like, well, I didn't hear it. And I was like, well, that's not my problem. And, and she was just, and then she was like whispering. Yeah. She's just like whispering angrily but loudly, clearly, so we can hear, to her, who I presume is her husband. And she's just like, she's like, I can't believe it. She's like, I'm so angry. And just like
telling us to leave, that we needed to leave.
She told us to leave. She literally, I forgot about that. She literally.
That's the most ableist shit. What?
Yeah, she was like, just go. And we're both like, no, we're not leaving.
You don't own the restaurant. You don't own the restaurant, woman.
I'm pretty sure I was like, you can leave.
And I was just standing there like baffled, trying not to say anything because I'm shy and I was scared.
I was ready to go off.
Like, no.
Oh, I would have fought her. Like, whenever something like that happens, and I know, like, I have the ADA laws memorized, like, down to the point where it's like a speech. And whenever something like that happens, and I know that what they're doing is illegal and it can kill somebody, I'll go off. Like, if Ivar gets distracted and he doesn't alert, it's not going to kill me, but it could kill somebody else.
Exactly.
And that could be a very teaching moment for somebody.
Alert, so he wasn't at the time, but he is now. So if someone were to distract him and he missed an alert, I could faint in public, hit my head, get really hurt.
Yeah. It was insane to me. Yeah. I was so shocked when she was like, just leave. And like, who the fuck do you think you are? And like, who has the audacity to be like, how dare you tell me not to touch your service dog? Now, I'm going to tell you to leave because I'm so offended that my privilege didn't work for once. Like, that just had me so fucking heated. I was,
Dude, no. I would have thrown hands. I'm like, I don't care if I go to jail.
Seriously. I was pissed. I was so stressed. In the moment, I was just so angry. I mean, I handled the situation calmly, but I was like, I'm going to fight her.
I can't remember, but the staff definitely didn't intervene. I don't know if they even heard it, but I think, if I remember correctly, when we went to order, they were like, are you okay? And I was
it's honestly all blur.
It is all a blur.
Yeah.
I think he asked if we were okay, though, even though he didn't step in to help us when she was yelling
Honestly,
at us.
I don't think the staff knows what to do in situations like that, because that's happened to me. Something similar, not that, but something similar to that happened to me at Target, and the dad was there with a bunch of kids, and the kids were trying to pet and fuck with my dog, and the dad was encouraging it, and I was like, please don't. And he was like, sorry that I offended your dog. And he just went off onto this whole rant. And I I just went like, okay, cool. And I almost started crying and started walking the other way. And one of the dudes that worked at Target was like, oh my God, are you all right? Like, that wasn't okay. And I'm like, I'm fine. And then I like started crying and I just turned down a different aisle and I was like, whatever.
I just really shook. It's fine. Oh
Like,
my
it's
gosh.
fine. That just scared me.
Anyway, we get our food and we sit down and like I could tell Lexie was like hardcore dissociating. She was stressed out. And I was like,
shaking.
I was like, I don't want to incriminate myself here. But I was like, girl, like I have my Xanax with me. Do you need one?
And I was like, I'm like, will it help?
Please.
And she's like, yeah. She's like, it's also like a low dosage. So
no, it's.
Didn't you say it was like 1 milligram?
Yeah,
so
but most people do like 0.25 or 0.5.
Oh, I was confused. Maybe the 1 made me think it was low.
1 milligram sounds really small.
I think she's like, I usually take half. And she's like, but you can have a full one if you want. I was like, give me a full one. Because I was just stressed. And so I'm sitting there shaking. So I took a Zanny. And and then that's when I think I called my friend Mika. And I was like, just telling her about this, going off. Because Mika's the kind of person who, when I have a situation, she'll just back me 100%. Even if I'm in the wrong. I wasn't in the wrong then, but I was like, oh, I need to go off. Exactly. I'm like, I just need Mika to, support me right now. And so I called her, and then I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I think I called Steven too. All I remember, I was real stressed. You called your mom, Riley.
Yeah.
And we're all like, what the hell is happening? And then I was starting to feel the Xanax, but I was really worried that it would wear off. And because I was still anxious. And so I was like, Riley, can I have another one? She's like, I don't want to turn you into a drug addict. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just really anxious right now. And so she gave me another one. Oh my
God, you were probably like blacked out.
Yeah, we'll get there. And so I had another one. And then we were eating our food. I don't even remember what I got. It was all a blur. I was so stressed and anxious and I was shaking. And so then I think we went to the car and I was like, can I have another one?
And I was like, this is your last one and I'm cutting you off because like I was really concerned. I didn't want her to like never want to come visit me again.
Or like have like liver failure.
I could tell she was really upset.
I was really upset. And I had never taken emergency meds like that before.
Girl, it takes like a good 30 minutes for that shit to kick in.
Right, which I think is why I was like, oh, I'm afraid it's not doing enough / I'm afraid it's going to wear off. And I literally texted my mom. I'm like, Mom, I took some of Riley's Xanax. Don't be mad at me. And she's like, I'm not mad. She's like, I'm glad you're okay. And I'm glad she could help you. And so we took that. And
then we went to my godmother's house to like just relax and explain everything that had happened. And Lexie was just gone by the time we got to my godmother's house. And my godmother will recall to this day, she's like, yeah, man, that girl was high.
Oh my God, you must have been like out of it for like a full 24 hours. I can't even imagine taking that much Xanax.
I was still so tired when I woke up the next day. But yeah, we were at her godmother's, and I remember Rudy and Gatsby were playing in the backyard, and then I was just sitting down on a bench or something, and she was like, how many did you take? I was like, 3 milligrams. And she's like, oh yeah, you're on a whole other planet right now.
Yeah.
And I know we went to like various dog boutiques and stuff during that time. Yeah.
High as a kite, going to the dog boutique.
High as a kite. I literally swapped dogs and used Gatsby because I could not stand up.
Yeah, like she had to use Gatsby's mobility harness because she couldn't
Oh my God.
Straight. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so we're just like going, and I'm like, woo! And then
you have Gatsby guide you
right
in a straight line.
I remember we went and they, those like yak cheese or Himalayan cheese chews or whatever.
Yeah.
So I remember there was a thing at one of the stores, and it was one of those things that you can put those in, so when it gets too small, the dog can't choke on it. And that was the first time I had seen one, and the one was showing me, and I was just so amazed. I was just like, oh my God, what a great invention.
God, I love when people would come in when I would work and they'd just be high as shit. And I'm like, yes, I like dealing with you. You're fun.
It's like, hello.
Stick around. We'll hang out. I'm going on break. We'll hang out. Just tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. And then I think at that same store, maybe another one, they had like kangaroo treats or like
kangaroo ribs.
Yeah, they had kangaroo
like
ribs.
Racks of ribs.
Ooh, that sounds yummy.
And I was like, oh my God, kangaroo. And so I was like, I need to get rid of
kangaroo is actually delicious.
I have not had it.
I know, I've had it before too.
What? Where are all you people getting your kangaroo? I mean, I know you went to
Australia.
Australia.
So good. Yeah, Saskatoons.
What? What even is that?
Saskatoons, I think is it in Greenville or is it in Malden? I don't know.
It's
somewhere in the upstate of South Carolina.
It's like a wild game
delicious
restaurant, right? And they have
ostrich.
Ooh.
Yes. And they have gator and
the more you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll have to
honestly,
go there
you can get gator anywhere in South Carolina though. Like especially if you go to the coast and you're like in Charleston, you can find gator anywhere. So I would definitely get like expensive. Ostrich or kangaroo. Yeah.
Well, shit.
But kangaroo is really good. It's like a really good steak.
Good to know.
It is. It's very soft and like surprisingly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Perhaps I will try that.
I thought it would have been tough.
Join my dog in his endeavors of eating kangaroo. But yeah, I think Rudy enjoyed it. There was a little small fenced-in turfed area outside one of the stores. And I remember we had the dogs there while we just kind of sat down because I was like, I need to sit. And and so I remember they were like, oh, can like our two dogs come and play? And we let them, and they had a grand old time. I remember that.
And then we drove home.
Wait, I think there was another store though. I remember we got these like baked dog treats. And I got a couple pictures of Rudy with them, but I was like, this looks so human and so good. And so
oh no, tell me you didn't.
And so I took a bite of it. It wasn't good.
Yeah, probably not.
Then I gave it to Rudy. He seemed quite jealous that I took a bite. But yeah, then I think after that we did go home.
And that's where I got the world's most iconic photo, where if y'all can insert a photo into this, put it here.
We'll put it on our page when we release this episode.
Passed the fuck out in the car. I had to drive, I think it's 2 hours or so by myself while Lexie was conked out, like mouth open, just dead to the world.
Way too high to drive.
And Riley was like, I was worried you were I had to check and make sure you were still breathing, and also was worried I was going to get you addicted to Xanax.
No, that shit will ruin your life, too. I've seen so many people get addicted to Xanax.
Yeah, no. Like, it's and I can understand why.
I don't. It just it calms me down, but it makes me freaking tired, and I don't like to be tired because I'm already tired enough all the time. So I rarely take my Xanax, and when I do, I have to be encouraged by Lexie to be Lexie will be like, Riley, take your Xanax. I'm like, oh,
you
God,
need it,
okay.
take it.
I could see it taken it once, and how it made me high. I could see how people could get addicted because they're like, oh,
most of it,
easy
I think
high.
It's like able-bodied people that aren't tired are like, oh, this will put me to sleep, or they'll take a Xanax and then they'll drink a beer and then they'll get like 10 times more drunk.
Right?
Yeah, it's a nightmare, and like I don't know, it's South Carolina is like methville, and there's like a ton of meth, a ton of cocaine, a ton of Xanax, like a ton of opiates. And I grew up in a bad neighborhood, so I saw this happen around me like often.
Right. Yeah, so I passed the Mick fuck out, and I was gone the whole trip home, had an awesome sleep.
Yeah, then when we got home, I like woke her up and she was like, huh? And I was like, we're home. And she went to bed
and drag her ass out of the car.
The rest of the day.
Yeah, as soon as we got home, I think we got home, and then your mom had made us dinner or something. And we had already eaten. I can't remember if it was that day, but your mom's like, I made a classic Southern dinner and these bitches already ate. But we got home and I was like, yeah, I'm going to bed. And so I went to sleep, and I slept till like 10 a.m. the next morning, which is late for me. I'm very much a early riser, or at least, like awake around 7, up by 8.
And the fact that you went to bed at what, like 4 in the afternoon?
Yeah, I
and
went
then
to bed
woke up at 10
quite
the
early.
next day.
So yeah, that was quite the adventure. Don't really have the best memory of it because there was Xanax involved, and Riley just doesn't have a great memory, so we may be missing some details.
I've had a lot of ECT treatments, so I've had my brain electrocuted a lot of times.
Yeah, she has an excuse. She's good.
So-
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think we hit all the highlights. It's not a very long story, but it's quite an enjoyable one. So yeah,
Please don't send me to jail.
So yeah, haven't taken a Xanax since. Probably don't plan on it unless I get my own prescription. But yeah, so that was iconic times, but really wish we hadn't been in the situation where I needed it. Because
that sucks.
that bitch had me pissed. I'm still pissed that she told us to leave.
I know.
No, when I have interactions out like that, like I'm out for the day. Like I go home and I like lay down and I just like feel myself like shaking as I'm like panicking and like afraid, and I'm like, cool. That was great.
I just dissociate the whole time it's happening and let it roll off my back, and then I forget about it like an hour later because my brain just allows me to forget anything and everything, and then I have repressed trauma.
Oh, same. That's like a trauma thing though. Like if I'm in a like really bad confrontational situation, like I'll remember it happened. Like I'll know that this person did something confrontational to me, and I might remember a snippet or two, but everything else is gone in a matter of like an hour to 30 minutes.
I think something has happened to me in Walmart because I have a very strong like aversion to. I will not take Gatsby into Walmart.
I hate Walmart. Don't know why. I don't like Walmart because I remember when I was a kid, and if I was with like my parents or my brother or someone and they had to go to the bathroom, I would sit outside and wait, and that's where the missing people's wall was. And so like the missing kids, missing teens, missing persons in general, and that just scared the hell out of me. And I'm
like,
already
cool, I'm alone in Walmart.
Exactly. And I already have a fear of kidnappers and stuff like that. My parents are quite overprotective, so I kind of had that fear instilled in me a little bit, and then I think seeing the pictures, like I had the healthy fear, and then seeing the pictures made it an unhealthy fear. So I'm like, I don't really like Walmart.
I never had like an irrational fear of getting kidnapped when I was a kid. Like obviously I knew like don't walk around at night, you're gonna get kidnapped or something.
Right.
But then like a girl in my neighborhood got kidnapped in broad daylight, ended up in Florida, and she was being held by an old woman after being dropped off at her house after being kidnapped, and she was able to get away and run to a payphone and call the police.
Jesus.
But they were going to send her to like Cuba or something. I don't know.
That's terrifying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, after that I was like, okay, cool. So my neighborhood, like I knew it wasn't safe, but now I know it's really not safe.
Right. If y'all ever have me back on the show, I can tell you about the time I was almost sex trafficked at the gas station, giving me a permanent fear of gas stations.
Was it the kangaroo station?
No, it was a Sicko, I think.
Damn, or a Circle K. Was it on Street?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, my sister almost got kidnapped there.
What the fuck no from me? Oh
yeah,
my God.
Yeah, no, she the day before she almost got shot in a drive-by, and then the next day she went to get gas, and these two dudes jumped out of a truck and started walking towards her very slowly, making eye contact with her, and she just ended up like taking the thing out, throwing it on the ground, and leaving.
Oh my God. I know I'm also kind of scared of Walmart because at one of the ones near where I grew up, there was like this sex trafficking cult that was like recruiting and snatching people at Walmart.
We had that going on the Greenville Tech campus. We had people recruiting people for it was apparently a sex trafficking thing, and it was under the guise of a Bible study.
Oh yes, college students are probably the number one most targeted group for cults.
What?
What cult was this? Did they ever find out?
I have no idea. I don't know if the police ever found out. I never found out, but I remember my teacher talking to all of us and being like, y'all need to be really careful. There's people on campus asking you to join a Bible study. It's not what you think it is. Like,
It was probably a minor one that we
Ooh.
probably wouldn't know the name of.
Yeah, it's surprising how many small cults are out there.
Yeah. But I could talk about cults forever. And I probably will one episode.
Oh, I would love that. We can have like an episode where we like just swap like service dog stories or like experiences with things like cults, because I
Right.
also find this stuff very interesting.
Hell yeah. Love me some cults. Studied that shit in school.
We have a local cult that's under the guise of a college close
Oh, that's
to me.
wonderful. I know there's
Yes.
one in like that.
Yeah, they say they're a Christian college and they are absolutely a cult.
What college?
But it's
Shut up.
yeah, no, okay, there was a really bad scandal. People knew this for years, but it was a really bad scandal because people were trying to bring this dude to justice.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of young girls, like prepubescent girls, like way underage, were getting sexually abused by teachers and like senior staff at the school. And when they would come to teachers or parents about it, the administration would tell them, it's your fault that it happened and you shouldn't be tempting men. And it basically huge victim blaming and gaslighting. And now those little girls are adults and they're trying to bring him to justice and they can't
Good.
because the school can get better
Oh,
lawyers than they can. And
that's so sad.
a lot of shit. Like one of my professors that taught drama at my high school got out. And she said that she used to have to supervise grown adults in their 20s that go to the college on dates because this runs from elementary school to college.
Yeah.
But she would have to supervise 25-year-old couples on dates. And they couldn't go to any restaurant that had a bar in it, which means like no Applebee's.
Oh my god.
And they could only see like PG rated movies or yeah. It was
shit.
terrible. The amount of control. One of my friends got kicked out for saying the word fuck on Facebook and liking the band Green Day on Facebook.
That like does not surprise me about just because their reputation of being absolute just I don't have the word for it, but yeah.
But yeah, so that is the story of my fun and awful Xanax high. And I'm glad we could have you here, Riley, to tell this fun story with us.
Glad to be here. It was really fun and extremely anxiety inducing, even more than the event itself for me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's okay. We only have 20 listeners. It's fine.
Exactly. But yeah, if you guys would like to find us on social media, you can find us on pretty much everything from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can find us at You Don't Look It Podcast. If you have any suggestions for stories you'd like to hear, feel free to email us at youdon'tlookitpodcast@gmail.com. We'd also love to hear your own stories, whether that be like just crazy wild stories or whatever, because we would love to have like a listener story each month once we can get enough. So we'd love to hear your own stories. So feel free to send that to us via email as well. And if you send it and we don't respond, possibly we didn't get it. So feel free to message us on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. If you want to follow our personal accounts, those are linked in our Instagram. Instagram is definitely the best place to find all the resources since we don't have a website right now. But in our link in Instagram in the bio, you can find our YouTube. It'll take you to our Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, everything. But yeah, and our Patreon, if you enjoy listening to us and feel so inclined to help us continue this journey, you are more than welcome to become a patron. My mother is our only patron right now. So yas, Mama J.
And we're thinking of adding some cool perks. Like I suggested making stickers that are themed.
Yes.
So
yes.
maybe
So
you'll
right
get a
now
sticker.
we only have one tier for Patreon, but we've been brainstorming and we'd also love to hear suggestions for if there are certain things you want to see. Right now we have a private Facebook group and a private Discord channel and stuff like that for all of our patrons. So yeah, we really appreciate you guys listening. We're at episode 6 now, so if you made it this far, that's great. Next
And we love you
time,
very much.
oh yeah, we appreciate it very much. We love you. So yeah, next time I'll tell a nice historical story. I think I know what I'm gonna do. And Danni will tell a personal. But yeah, we'll see you then. So thank you for listening. All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.